effective communication on video when you can't actually see yourself. Hi guys, my name is Deepak Shukla, founder at the Pearl Lemon Group. We are a business growth and development agency based in the UK, USA, as well as serving clients worldwide. And here today in day number 36 of our communications training. If you do need communication support, by the way, just reach out to us and we can see how we can support you. We're talking about ultimately communication on video when you're unable to see yourself. But before we get into it, feel free to click the link in the description below to get access to 7 additional strategies that are not shared in this training. So look, fundamentally, you're going to be on video platforms at times, and these video platforms at times may change, whether it's Zoom, Google Meet, whereby it could be a WhatsApp video call, Zoom, Teams, Uber conference. There's going to be probably more platforms that exist that you've been on or that you will be on, and you're not always going to be able to see yourself. And to be honest with you, when you're speaking and you're focusing on something, for example, with a screen share or otherwise, you're not going to be able to see yourself. So it's a little bit sometimes disconcerting when you're unable to see yourself. So I want to talk a little bit about just a couple of things to consider from a mental and cognitive perspective when you're in a situation such as that. The first thing that's important to happen is to maintain your composure. So sometimes I do see when we're on a call and we can't see ourselves that you hear the nervousness sometimes in someone's voice when they that's that kind of communication begins to come in. So that's just step number one, to be mindful of how your voice changes when you're unable to see yourself and to keep composed. And there's a general broader point there about pressure and how when you're unused to pressure, it causes anxiety. And the only way to decrease pressure is to get exposed to more anxiety. So that relates more broadly to systematic desensitization, which is something that I do recommend you Google. Continual exposure or continual re-exposure to stressful environments or a stressor, which you can then, as a consequence of continual exposure, learn to recognize it doesn't actually do anything negative, and therefore you get accustomed to it. So that's just something to consider as an aside. So that's just number one, maintaining composure. The second thing to consider is ultimately always number two is where you can see yourself, then do see yourself, because it's important that you're able to understand or at least look a little bit at your own expressions or at your own body language, what you're doing when you're actually communicating. So sometimes what happens also, and let's start to write these out actually. So, number one is maintaining composure. Yes. Number two is trying to keep your video in view. So you do want to have the ability to see yourself because it is handy, it is useful, because of course you can quickly check how you look, your frame, where you are on the screen, because sometimes what happens is you forget people you forget people can see you, and I've seen people, I don't know, pick their nose, pick their ear, brush themselves, sit in an awkward way, look the other way, all kinds of things, because you don't have that visual cue. People can actually see you, Frank. Do you realize that you were like picking your nose in front of everybody? So I've seen that happen. So that's something that you need to really consider, that be mindful that people can see you, and therefore be mindful of how it is that you actually are positioned. So keep that in mind. That's the third thing. And then the fourth thing to consider is that if you can't see yourself, change nothing. Imagine just imagine you can. So what I mean by that is, what sometimes happens is that people go a little bit into presentation mode, which is fine, but you want to keep it conversational. What sometimes happens is that you can't see yourself and maybe you can't see others. It becomes a little bit more abstract and you feel as if you're talking from a podium or you're presenting, whereas remember, it's a team meeting, it's a team environment. So imagine you can see yourself, imagine you're, and this really does relate to, I presume, visualization, and that being an important part of it. So visualize that you can see yourself. Generally speaking, visualize that you're together and that there is no software or hardware medium between you, and that you're all sat in a room together. So look, these are the 4 points that I'd say that would be important that we've not covered when it comes to effective communication on video when you can't see yourself. Do maintain your composure. Try and keep your video in view where you can, because if you can, then do it. Don't forget that people can see you. So maintain professionalism, whatever professionalism means within your company and for yourself. And then imagine where you can't keep your video in view. Imagine you can see yourself, and get into the space of visualization, and treat it like a fireside chat. Or just treat it like, yeah, treat it like you're talking to a friend, obviously in a professional capacity, but keep it loose, keep it light, keep it professional. And I think that much of this also applies for when you're on video, but when you're off video, don't let that narrative change. So there you have it, guys. Effective communication on video when you can't see yourself. And please do, if you're enjoying these videos, drop some detailed timestamps in the comments below. That's great. You should see some there, as well as like and subscribe to the channel. So there you have it, guys. That is effective communication on video when you can't see yourself.